From an early age, children play with toy aircraft and dream of flying like the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds. High-performance aerobatic maneuvers are some of the first things that come to mind when people think of flying. While high-G, aerobatic maneuvering is not for everyone, and especially not for every aircraft, the steep turn is the first foray into serious maneuvering flight. During this maneuver, the pilot experiences higher bank angles and load factors while demonstrating positive control and mastery of the aircraft. The objective of the steep turn is to develop the pilot's smoothness, coordination, orientation, division of attention, and control techniques while executing maximum performance turns. Describing the steep turn is a little more inviting. The steep turn maneuver consists of a turn in either direction, using a bank angle steep enough to cause an overbanking tendency during which maximum turning performance is attained and relatively high load factors are imposed. A change in heading can be accomplished in a number of ways. However, the application of lift in the direction of turn is the most effective and comfortable. Adjusting bank angle controls the direction of the lift vector. An unfortunate side effect, loss of vertical lift, presents itself if bank applications are not accompanied by other control forces. Applying back pressure while in the turn will increase total lift and thus increase the vertical component for the airplane to maintain level flight. With any addition of lift comes an increase in drag, and so power must increase to maintain airspeed. But these are the basics. Let's look at how this is accomplished in the airplane. Prior to beginning steep turns, it may be advantageous to review the forces affecting the airplane in a turn from the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge and the Airplane Flying Handbook. By understanding these forces, a pilot will be prepared for and appreciate the actions required to successfully accomplish a steep turn. Before starting any maneuver, it is important to set up for the maneuver and clear the area. Follow the UND Cessna 172 Standardization Manual. Begin at a safe altitude at or above 1,500 feet AGL on dual flights and 2,000 feet AGL on a solo flight. Remember, these altitudes are the minimum recovery altitudes. Start above these altitudes to account for any irregularities or unforeseen losses of altitude that might occur during the maneuver. Once at a safe altitude, clear the area with practice area calls and 2 90-degree clearing turns. Establish 95 knots indicated and trim the airplane. With these basic setup items complete, let's catch up with UND CFI Mike Lents in the cockpit.
Right now we've picked our altitude, we're getting set up, so we're just making sure the area is clear. We've completed our clearing turns, so now we want to set up our bugs. So first we'll set up our altitude bug, just to make sure it's giving us an indication of what altitude we're holding. We'll also set up our heading bug. An easy way is just push the heading button. And make sure that your aircraft is actually aligned with the rotor or the section line. East, north, the cardinal headings don't really matter, it's just make sure you have the outside visual reference. The key with the roll-in is maintain coordination, not just throughout the maneuver itself, but as you enter and exit the roll. So as we enter, you'll need quite a bit of rudder. The more aileron you use, the more rudder you'll need.
Maintain airspeed by adding just a touch of power to overcome the increase in induced drag, and stop the bank smoothly at the PTS objective, 50 degrees for commercial and 45 degrees for private pilot applicants. Holding this angle precisely allows the pilot to maintain altitude with small changes in pitch.
Just cross-reference the instruments, keep an eye on what that level line is going to be. And you need quite a bit of back pressure as well as a little bit of power to augment any drag we get from adding that extra lift.
The key to maintaining altitude is smooth and positive adjustments. The best way of doing this is by establishing a reference point outside and maintaining the point's relationship to the aircraft, perhaps a line on the cowling or a nut or rivet. Now, the PTS does allow for imperfections in bank angle. If you're having difficulty with gaining altitude, the pilot should check their bank for the correct angle and then adjust pitch if necessary. If losing altitude, again, verify bank angle before making radical pitch adjustments. If the pilot has the proper bank angle, just adjust pitch to hold altitude. Because the airplane is in a steep bank, the airplane experiences the overbanking tendency. The lateral stability inherent in the aircraft design is not enough to level the wings or maintain the bank. It will attempt to increase bank angle and dive if the controls are released and left to their own devices. This means, then, that it may be necessary to use slight opposite aileron to the turn to maintain correct bank angle. Do not overthink these actions. Look outside and apply the controls necessary to maintain proper bank.
As we're coming around the turn, again, just keeping our scan outside mainly. That's going to make this smooth. And also glancing inside the instruments to cross-check, and as we get close to our heading, it'll smoothly roll out, reduce power a little bit.
The pilot has now successfully completed half of the commercial steep turn. Pause and transition to the other direction. The challenge here is in finding a new reference point and maintaining altitude. The premise is exactly the same as the first direction we turned, except now the sight picture is drastically different. During practice, take note of this different sight picture. Transitioning from one turn direction to the other is really one of the main challenges of completing a successful commercial steep turn maneuver. Remember, if power is not changed at the right time or too much back pressure is held throughout the transition, the airplane will have a strong tendency to climb.
As we're turning, unlike other maneuvers, this one we do have sustained load factor, so a little bit of a different feel to it than your normal turn. It's a little bit squished into the seat.
During the rollout, remember, counteract adverse yaw with coordinated use of the flight controls, meaning the ailerons and rudder being used together. As the bank is reduced, reset power and relax back pressure to prevent climbing. If the pilot trimmed the airplane for the turn, forward pressure is needed to maintain level flight.
So now we're getting ready to roll out. Be anticipating a roll up about 20 to 30 degrees. And if you feel that bump as you exit out of the maneuver, then that's just a sign you hit your own wake turbulence and you're doing it just right. All right, let's send it back to UND CFI Anthony Bottini for the PTS performance standards for steep turns.
Successfully completing commercial steep turns means demonstrating the knowledge and skill level outlined in the Commercial Pilot PTS. This includes exhibiting knowledge of the elements related to steep turns, establishing the manufacturer's recommended airspeed or a safe airspeed less than VA if no airspeed is recommended, rolling into a coordinated 360-degree turn with at least 50 degrees of bank, followed by a 360-degree steep turn in the opposite direction. Dividing attention between airplane control and orientation. Maintaining entry altitude plus or minus 100 feet, airspeed plus or minus 10 knots, and bank angle plus or minus 5 degrees, and then rolling out on heading within plus or minus 10 degrees. Practicing steep turns brings a little change and excitement to flight training. Increasing the load factor on the airplane and feeling how the airplane responds is just as important as accurate aircraft control. Perfecting the steep turn and recognizing the relationships between load factor, turn performance, and stall speed make you a safer pilot, ready to handle a greater variety of situations and where flying a high-performance turn accurately just kind of becomes second nature. For more information on the commercial steep turn maneuver, reference the UND Aerospace Standardization Manual, Chapter 3.
As always, from UND Aerospace, have fun and fly safe.